Okay, in this video, I'm going to go through the documents from the FIA for the 4 incidents adjudicated by the stewards, which are the alleged forcing another driver off the track for car 22, car 10 colliding with car 55, car 16 erratic driving, and car 1 alleged forcing another driver off the track. But before I do that, what we're actually going to do is go through Sky Sports F1's footage of what actually took place between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Rat boy Anthony Davidson is going to take us through that. In fact, before we do that, Lewis Hamilton's interview on Sky Sports is going to be shown on this. So let's get into that. Let's make this bigger and let's listen to what they've got to say.
Okay, really tough day for Lewis Hamilton. His worst result here in Hungary for 15 years. Let's hear from him now.
Hi, Lewis. Can we just ask you about the move with Max at turn 4? I know that's being investigated. What was your take on it?
I don't really remember it, to be honest.
So they're asking for Lewis, what is his take on it? Well, what Lewis knows is it's bullshit. Okay, I'll come to the document in a second. Even the document is absolute bullshit. The guy's resigned because he knows that the whole charade is all bullshit.
When we spoke to you yesterday, you made a comment that I know has been picked up everywhere, and you said change the driver. Can you just tell me, do you genuinely feel that way? Is there a point right now that you just don't have the answers, and so you're finding it really difficult to pick yourself up, or can you help us understand the comment a bit more?
Not particularly. When you have a feeling, you have a feeling. And there's a lot going on in the background that is not great. So, yeah.
Right, a lot going on in the background that's not great. So what do we know? What can we what do we know? Well, all that we know is what we can observe and what information the media wants to give us about the situation that Lewis Hamilton is experiencing at Ferrari. Now, there's a lot of speculation. Lots of people want to tell us what they think about it, and that's a waste of time. What you can see is that there's a guy there who appears to be very disillusioned with what is going on. One of the things that I picked up on of Lewis's driving today, when Max Verstappen's onboards were showing Max was following Lewis and he was following Lewis's car, the manner in which Lewis was cornering was not in any way consistent. It very much seemed like Lewis Hamilton was having to fight that car. He was not driving with the normal level of smoothness that we would expect from Lewis. He was like taking corners as if he was taking a line that was like a 50p piece. There was no kind of smoothness of trajectory around a corner. He was having to constantly make additional inputs to keep that car under control. That's how it looked to me from Max's onboards. That is not typical of how we've seen Lewis Hamilton drive in his career, which would say to me that he is still experiencing difficulties with the handling of that Ferrari. What we heard at the last Grand Prix is that Charles is driving a Ferrari which has got 2 generations worth of improvements on it. In the upgrades that get introduced on these cars throughout the season. Well, Charles has got 2 iterations of upgrades ahead of Lewis. One of the things that is never talked about is that there is an ability to control the mapping of each of these engines and therefore control the amount of power that each of these engines produces. What we do see with Lewis Hamilton is he can lap relatively quickly, still in race pace. He can catch his opponent. He gets within about half a second of the guy that he's trying to catch and overtake, and doesn't seem able to overtake. That was never a problem for him in the past. But in the last season he was at Mercedes, in fact, some of them seasons in the latter years at Mercedes, and now this season he's lacking the ability to make that overtake once he's half a second or even less than half a second behind the car in front. Every other driver doesn't seem to have that problem. When you're within DRS, well, that's what DRS is there for, drag reduction, meaning that when you get on a straight, you're half a second behind somebody, that DRS should give you the extra oomph, lack of drag, giving you extra speed to make the overtake. And Hamilton doesn't seem to be able to do that. Now, is that Hamilton or is that Hamilton's car? Is it the man that can't do it or is it the car that can't do it? Judging from his body language, judging by what we've seen throughout his career, I don't think that it's the man. I don't think that he's lost ability. To have the ability to press the accelerator and for your car to then have additional speed over and above the car that you're challenging, that's not Hamilton, is it? He's not the one that's backing out of that. He's obviously feeling or experiencing that this car has not got the additional overspeed to perform that overtake. So why? I don't know. You don't know. Our opinions are irrelevant. But be open-minded to the fact that there is the ability to vary the power outputs of them engines. And the handling characteristics, you can look at Lewis Hamilton's driving, and that car does not appear to be handling in a manner which he is comfortable with. Also, the decision making of the Ferrari is the Ferrari team's pretty atrocious. We'll get onto the bit where Anthony Davidson, Rat Boy at the Skypad, will talk to us about how difficult it is to overtake around the Hungaroring. Hamilton starting in 12th position. And we're going on the different strategy. You're going to go on the hard compounder tyre. So from the start, you're on the harder compounder tyre, which we're told is less grippier, meaning off the start line, you're disadvantaged compared to those grippier compounder tyres that are around you. So you're likely to be compromised at the start, being susceptible to losing places at the start, meaning you're then in a train of cars where it's difficult to overtake. And then you're on the hard compounder tyre, which should outlast the other compounder tyres, but the bit that you're outlasting them on is the latter stages of that tyre's life, not at their optimum, so you're not really setting the fastest times on those old hard compound tyres at that stage. But those runners around you have pitted earlier, and then this notion of the undercut, pitting earlier and getting out on fresher tyres gives you the advantage, because you can then start putting the faster lap times in the fresh tyres. So going long, what advantage is that going to give you? It makes you a sitting duck. You're not in the best position to have the overspeed of them competitors around you. Number one, you're susceptible to losing places off the start in them first lap or so because of the lower grip of the hard compound tyre. Number two, once stuck in that, then you're less likely to want to push it hard because, again, under braking, you're not going to have the same level of grip. So again, if you're making these attempts to make passes where you're having to outbrake a car, where you're on the tyres that are less grippy, so you're going to be less confident in trying to make them overtaking manoeuvres in them early stages. You're on a full fuel load as well, so you're not set up to actually make up positions in the early stages. And as the race goes on, the field spreads, and you end up so far behind everybody because everything becomes so spread out. You're not setting him up with any chance. If anything, if you're going to go on a counter strategy to those cars around you and everybody's starting on mediums, you start on softs. You try and make up positions at the start. You try and put yourself in a position whereby in those first few laps you've got grippier tyres, and therefore you can try and push and outbrake those cars around you, gaining positions. And yes, you're going to need to pit earlier, but having pitted earlier, you then go on to fresher tyres than everybody else and can make gains in that direction. Maybe you come out into free air and therefore you're lapping on a track where there's no cars around you. And by the time that they've pitted, you've made places through that pit stop strategy. They're not doing it, are they? No, they keep him out there for 30 odd laps, playing follow your leader while everybody's getting away from you. How is that helpful? These are the super brains at Ferrari. These are the strategists at Ferrari. It's fairly straightforward, but people, those people entrusted to these positions can't understand the basics, can they? Now, is that due to stupidity? Is that due to lack of ability, or is it by design? Is there an agenda? Well, we'll carry on with this anyway.
What's your love of racing right now?
No, I still love racing.
Okay, Rat Boy at the Skypad. What I'm going to try and do is slow this down to super slow-mo at the right moment in time. But we also need to listen to what he's got to say. Listen to his bullshit. Let's have a look.
Well, Lewis still expecting more from himself. I think it's only
more from himself. Yeah, there's the element of that. He's not performing at his greatest. I say potentially, he's clearly not performing at his greatest, but it very much looks like he's still having to fight the car. It's not handling correctly. And the power output of that car doesn't seem to be the same as Charles's car. Doesn't seem to have the straight line speed to overcome those cars around him, even with the benefit of DRS. There does seem to be a problem. So it's not just a Lewis Hamilton problem.
Sometimes when you change teams and on a circuit where he's been so successful in the past as well, and maybe was expecting more from today, but on the circuit where it's so difficult to overtake, he found himself in battles with, well, at least he was in decent company with people he's fought very hard before for world championships. Max Verstappen, this was kind of the moment of the race where he got most involved.
This was the moment of the race with Max Verstappen.
Wasn't it, through turn 4? Play on slow motion because Max tries.
Right. We'll listen to what Davidson says first.
To send it down the inside, and if you stop it there, it kind of looks like the move was, he had a reason to be there as you come close to the apex of the corner. It's funny what different camera angles does sometimes when you look at how people race, and the two of them were sensible as well, as you'd expect.
The two of them were sensible. The two of them were sensible. One car is sending it down the inside and they've got no right to be there. And Rat Boy saying the two of them were sensible. Look at how he pretends that what Max is doing is okay. The two of them were sensible.
Expect Lewis having that capacity that you would expect from the 7-time world champion to
8.
To not crash into each other.
Lewis having the capacity to not crash into each other. No, so Lewis wouldn't have been guilty of crashing into Max. Max would have been guilty of crashing into Lewis because he's done something that he shouldn't do and would have been guilty of hitting Lewis. Look at Max. Max is well over the line. He needs to leave a car width. Now, I need to show you this in slow motion. So we'll try and in fact let's do this in let's just do this bit in slow motion. Time playback speed. See if it's slow enough. Here we go.
You'd expect from the 7-time world champion to not.
So, Hamilton has had to adjust his line. Okay, Hamilton had set his steering angle for going around that corner, realised that Max was going to drive into him and has had to adjust his line mid-corner at speed, which then completely deviates where your trajectory your car is going to go. he can also work out where Max's line has taken him as well. Look at this. There. It jumps, but look at where Max is. Max is on the line, within the fraction. Now this is the trouble, is that this is the level of footage that is available to us. If I go back here, I've just jumped back the 5 seconds.
To not.
Okay, this is what it actually is shown to us.
Crashing.
See, it goes big screen like that within, and what we're seeing is that, you know, we can't break it down any more than that. But what we're seeing is Max Verstappen, his wheels are over the white line. There's clearly no room for Lewis Hamilton.
To each
Clearly no room.
other. Oh,
And again, if we go from there.
crash into each other. Crash into each other.
Let's go big screen again.
Crash into.
So it jumps. Okay. But clearly there is no track room for Lewis Hamilton to be there. Lewis should be in the position where Max's car is, meaning Max has to be inside of that. In fact, the actual regulation is Lewis should be entitled to a full car width here. Okay? Meaning that Lewis's tyres here should be within the white line. That is what he's entitled to. And he's clearly not given anywhere near that. Last time through, and then we'll go through with what Ratboy says.
No. Crash into.
See, had Lewis have attempted to remain on the track, it is very clear that there would have been a collision. Because it's very clear that the trajectory that Max was on, we can see the jump here. Max isn't keeping it any tighter than that.
No. Crash in.
Okay, now there will be claims made by Max Verstappen in this stewards meeting. Okay, Max is not keeping it any tighter than that. So, we'll go back to normal speed and we'll listen to Ratboy. Playback speed. Come on, let's have a listen to Splinter.
To each other.
Oops, what's he doing now?
Although Max, you could argue, forces him off the circuit.
You could argue that Max you could argue. No, he did. It's not an argument. There's the evidence. That's what he did. Okay, he drove a line where there was no track room. That's driving somebody off the circuit. It's no argument.
And that's still under investigation. Fascinated to see how the stewards are going to play.
It's under investigation. We don't know what the judges are going to say. Oh, because this is the law. It's all about an argument, and then the judge makes a decision based on which argument they like the most and whether they're corrupt or not, and are going to make a ruling to favour one person or not. That's the way our corrupt legal system works. It extrapolates to the judicial system of Formula One, where you've got corrupt stewards making corrupt decisions as well. But don't you worry, little heads, about that. Let's carry on.
Play this one, but if you look at it from a different angle, first of all, let's go to the onboards on this side by side. We've lined them up as best we can as they head up that hill. And unfortunately, on the left-hand side here, I'll just go full frame for this momentarily, because we go to the nose camera.
Incident involving Max Verstappen. Oh, we lose the onboards. As always, we don't see what Max's steering angle is. We don't see what Max's intent is. Because that is what always goes missing. When Max is guilty of doing something filthy, we lose the onboard, demonstrating Max's intent.
It's the only shots that we have. This was...
Oh, we've lost it. We've only got this shot, unfortunately, because that camera's still recording. There's still footage, but they just don't show us it. always goes missing, doesn't it?
What happens sometimes, just unlucky.
Just what happens sometimes. It's just unlucky, says Splinter, Rat Boy.
Goes from the angle we really would have wanted to something that is a bit harder to judge. So by that point, I'll go back to the side-by-side, and Lewis looking towards the apex, and obviously can see somewhere in his mirror, unbelievably at those speeds, I must say, he can see where Verstappen is.
He's got to hit that apex. He's got to hit that apex. No, you see, he hasn't. This is called motor racing, and everything that's happened is a dynamic situation. Everything is continually evolving. So what happens is, and what the real rules of engagement are, which they'll lie to you about, are that as you're driving around a motor racing circuit, for each and every corner, for each and every turn, you have to set your car up for going through that corner or turn. Okay, meaning that you have to slow your car to an appropriate speed for making that turn. Now, at that point in time where you are doing so, the braking zone for the corner, where you are adjusting the speed of your car to make that turn or corner, you assess what line you're allowed to take. And you do that based on the relative location of your car to that of the cars that you're competing against. Are you entitled to pick the racing line without any regard for those cars around you? Now, if there is a car trying to challenge you on the inside and it's not it's not halfway alongside you at that braking zone, that car that's behind has to back out. It's not entitled to be left track room. It's not made it far enough alongside you. It's not earned the right to be left track room. You are entitled to the racing line. You're entitled to go across, clip the apex and be wide on exit, and not have to in any way leave track space for the other car. If the car's trying to overtake you on the outside, if it is not fully alongside you at that braking zone, once again, you, as the lead car, are entitled to pick a line around that corner that is whatever the line of your choice, clipping the apex, being wide on exit. However, if the attacking car on the inside at the braking zone has got itself at least halfway alongside, you have to leave it track room. You have to leave it at least a car's width on the inside, but it has to leave you at least a car width on the outside on the exit of that corner. They're the rules of engagement. If the car that's trying to overtake you on the outside is at least level with you at the braking zone to the corner, then you have to leave it racing room. You have to leave it room all the way around the corner, especially on exit of the corner. You have to leave it at least a car's width on exit of that corner. That's the rules of engagement. That's how it's always been until we got Verstappen rules. Until they told the crowd, the smooth brains, oh, we call it let them race. We call it elbows out. We call it argy-bargy. And this is just Max Verstappen. He carries so much extra speed, everybody. And it's understeer. Did Max drive the other car off the track? Did Max drive off the track himself, the other side of the track, leaving no room for the other? Oh, the other competitor went off the track as well, so that means it's okay for Max, everybody. Did Max? Oh, we've lost the onboards. Nobody knows. Max Verstappen rules, everybody. Max Verstappen rules. So, let's listen to what Rat Boy's saying.
And as I just roll it on a bit more, what you're looking for is, remember the rule says the car overtaking or trying to overtake on the inside, the front axle must be in line with the mirror of the car, which is up there. So we're sitting.
Again, this is just made up. You know, for all you highly knowledgeable Formula One fans, it's quite simple. It's about halfway alongside. The halfway alongside rule is what we're talking about. So what we want to be looking at is the two wheels of Lewis's car, the front wheels and the back wheels, right? Is Max front wheels halfway in between the two? Oh, it's about the wing mirror. Is his wheels level with the wing mirror? What if the location of the wing mirror is different on each of these cars? Yeah, what if the way that these teams design the cars place the location of these wing mirrors in different positions? Oh, how do you then assess it? Are teams going to adjust the position of their mirrors so that they, when they're being adjudicated in this manner, it can say, "Wow, our mirrors are in this position, so therefore that means that was an illegal overtake." See, that's a bit bullshit, isn't it? It's bullshit to gaslight people when the reality is halfway alongside. Okay? Ignore the bullshit about the wing mirrors. That's just something there to gaslight, to embellish a scenario, to make you think you know what you're talking about when it's quite simple. You need to be halfway alongside in order to be left track room. If you're not halfway alongside and you're trying to attack on the inside, you've got no right to be there. Back out.
Basically alongside, they were just in front, in fact, of the axles, and there's the mirror. So I think as the rule goes, before you get to the apex, or even at the apex,
See, that's all bullshit as well. Okay, this notion of the apex being the point where you determine the right is far too late. Because if a car carries so much extra speed into that apex just so that they meet that criteria, where are they going to go on exit of the corner? Because if they're going too fast, then they're carrying too much speed that they're not going to remain on track, or they're not going to be able to take a line that affords their fellow competitor track room on exit. So it's nothing to do with winning that race, winning that right by the time you get to the apex. It's assessed at the braking zone, the point in time where you're slowing your car to the speed that it's able to take that corner appropriately. It's too late at the apex. This is how it's always been. But now they're trying to change it and trying to lie to you and trying to educate you in a completely wrong manner just to validate Max Verstappen.
Is there on Verstappen's on board anyway. He hasn't got his front axle alongside, but it's still a bit difficult thanks to that.
Well, clearly not as well, because we can see from Hamilton's, there's no sign of Max Verstappen's tyre there, is it?
Nose cam that we're on. So the best shot for that, really, I'm sure what the stewards will be looking at right now, is this moment here from the helicopter.
The stewards will be looking at it right now. You see, why were they not looking at it during the race? Why could the stewards not decide this during the race?
Shot just before they go in towards the where the trees are, which again it would be unlucky here because that's right on the apex. But
so we need to say that the front axle, these front wheels, need to be halfway alongside the car. It doesn't matter whether the mirrors are there or there, they need to be halfway between there and there. And this thing is a dynamic thing. It's a dynamic process to try and make a photograph decision, a still decision. Are they there? Are they exactly there? Are they a millimetre ahead of that or a millimetre behind it? It's an approximation. These drivers have to make this judgment at this sort of speed in a fraction of a second. Okay? But he's not there. He's not there. He's behind. His front wheels are level with his rear wheels. Back out. It's not your corner.
Even before the apex, you can see that front axle nowhere near the mirrors. So I think there was no contact. Lewis acted accordingly and somehow managed to survive. Many drivers would have just turned in on the normal racing line, and
because they're entitled to. You're entitled to not have to afford the other car track room. But what would that have done?
Would have been contact. There would have been a...
Yes, there would have been a collision. So Lewis Hamilton took action to prevent that collision, to prevent him from being smashed out of the race potentially. You don't know the consequences of a collision. You don't know whether that's going to result in injury to yourself. Now, we don't often see it, thankfully. We don't see drivers injured all that often, but there's no guarantees. So if you've got the ability to drive your car in a way whereby you can avoid a collision, avoid the chance of your car sustaining, being smashed out of the race, ending up in the barriers, ending up in the tyre wall, potentially causing you injury, then that is the best course of action to take, which is what Lewis Hamilton is doing. He should not have to do that. He should not have to do that. And any car that forces him into that action is the car that's committing the infringement. They're the ones that need penalising. That is a style of driving that in motorsport needs stamping out, because that is dangerous driving. It is putting your fellow competitor in jeopardy, putting them at risk of potential harm. That is illegal driving.
A high-speed spin, so that's something to consider there. So well done for
a high-speed spin. That's something to consider there, says Ratboy. Let's see if we can slow this.
Attack. There would have been a high-speed spin, so that's something to.
Right, we've started it going. Let's try and put this on super slow-mo again, and let's have a look to see what we can see. So we're emerging from the trees. Verstappen fully behind.
Consider that.
There you go.
So, well,
because Lewis has seen him coming and he's completely adjusted his line, slowing Lewis's line around the corner because he was at risk of being hit. If he'd have turned in, he'd have had his back axle tagged.
That's something to.
So Lewis, look at the angle Lewis has taken. Lewis should have clipped the apex here. Max wasn't backing out. Max didn't back out. There would have been a collision. Lewis took a much wider line, steered to his right, opening that up so that there was no collision. But in doing so, he loses.
Consider this.
And look where Max is.
So.
Look at where Max is. Almost off the track himself on exit.
Well.
There's no way that Max is staying here, leaving a car's width on his outside of that track. Let's go back to full speed.
Well done to Lewis for avoiding that one. But yeah, it's not really the race he wanted today. Not the race that Verstappen wanted either. But that happens when the.
Yeah, not the race that Verstappen wanted. Where was the masterclass from Max?
Car hasn't quite got the performance, and unluckily for Lewis as well, just those 2.5 tenths that he was away from Leclerc in.
It's what happens when the car hasn't quite got the performance. Yeah, funny that, isn't it? Funny who can only win when they're driving a rocket ship, which is the allegation made against Lewis Hamilton, isn't it? Who can win when they've only got the best car? Who's that? Oh, but there's times where Max can win when it's a tractor. Sometimes a tractor, sometimes it's the fastest car in the grid. Oh, why would that be then? Could that be about some races the engine power is tuned up and other races it isn't? Who knows? Who knows?
Q2, and then eventually it meant that he couldn't get through to Q3. That's why his day was so difficult today, and that's, I believe, what he's.
Oh, that's what made Lewis Hamilton's day so difficult today. Q2 and Q3, and yeah, it was the qualifying difference relative to Leclerc, and that's what made Lewis's day difficult. Nothing to do with what's going on within that Ferrari team, what is going on with the handling of the car, what's going on with the power of that car, not what's going on with the decisions made by the strategy department, what's going on the track with the behaviour of the fellow competitors. Now let's have a look at the. In fact, we'll just see what if this Davidson says any more gems.
he's reflecting on still at this moment right now. So hopefully that makes sense to the fans that might be questioning, like, well, why is he still so downbeat after a pretty decent day? I think he did the most he could have done with that one stop today on a track where it's so difficult to overtake. Back to you.
Right, cheers, Rat Boy. Now let's go into these documents. 4 documents. Let's have a look what they are. And this was, well, this is a thing. I'll come back to that one actually. I'll come back to that one. This document here, document 41. What are they considering? Charles Leclerc. They were able to consider this during the race. Car 16 moved twice towards car 63 when defending its position on the main straight, which is a breach of Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 2E of the International Sporting Code. You see, we're referring to the FIA International Sporting Code, which is what the sporting regulations are for driver conduct, driving standards, and then we go into the guidelines, which are bullshit, really, because the guidelines, they're just there for show. Okay, what is actually will be the parameters are Appendix L, Chapter 4 of the International Sporting Code. These guidelines are made up to appease the strap-on fanboy, the drive to survive kiddies who believe it. Okay, you can pick holes in them. They're all bullshit. They're for show. So, in the race, they were able to give Charles Leclerc a 5-second time penalty and 1 penalty point. Okay, 1 penalty point. Remember the penalty point, okay? Because penalty points are important. They can result in a race ban if you're near to 12, totting up to 12, like Max. The race stewards reviewed video, telemetry, and in-car evidence. Yeah. Oh, that evidence always goes missing for Max. Car 63 moved to overtake car 16 on the inside into turn 1. Car 16 moved towards car 63 on the main straight before braking and subsequently moved a second time. Now under braking, nearly causing a collision with car 63. Nearly causing a collision, yeah? The stewards consider both moves combined to constitute erratic driving. The stewards took into account that car 63 succeeded in overtaking car 16 and that there was no contact, and in these circumstances apply a less severe penalty than might have been applied in different circumstances. Competitors are reminded they have the right to appeal certain decisions of the stewards. Okay, so what they're saying is Charles Leclerc was guilty of erratic driving by trying to block George Russell from overtaking him. Yes, he was guilty of that. It was erratic. It was dangerous. However, George Russell still managed to make that overtake. Charles went from 3rd down to 4th despite driving dangerously. George still managed to pass him. So, what should be a 10-second penalty and 2 points on your licence, they've reduced to just 5 points. 5-second time penalty in 1 penalty point. Why? You're still guilty of the offence of dangerous driving. Just because George Russell made the move stick shouldn't decrease the level of the penalty awarded to Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is guilty of that offence. There are no mitigating circumstances for what he did. George Russell still passing him is not a mitigating circumstance. That's not an excuse that would say, okay, Charles was guilty of that. However, he was experiencing an issue due to whatever it might be, and that meant that he wasn't purposefully behaving like that. It's just due to, for example, the conditions, rain, lower grip because of rain, or oil on the track, or trying to take evasive action due to something else. They would be mitigating circumstances. They're not. Charles did that. You get the penalty. You get a 10-second penalty. You get 2 points. But this is the learned judges applying their discretion when they don't really know what they're doing, do they? That's not the reason why you should give somebody a reduced penalty. Oh, well, the other guy got past you, so we'll give you a reduced penalty. No. Next one. Oracle Red Bull Racing. We're adjudicating on the Oracle Red Bull Racing team again. This time it's Yuki Tsunoda. allegedly forcing another driver off the track. Well, it categorically happened. It's not an allegation. It's a fact that that's what he did. So, no further action. It's Red Bull, isn't it? It's a breach of the sporting code, but no further action. So, the stewards reviewed the in-car video evidence. Car 27 attempted to overtake on the outside of car 22 into turn 1 and had the right to the racing line. Yeah? Why is that then? Had they achieved being alongside the car that they were seeking to overtake at the braking zone of the corner? I've not got the footage, I can't show you, okay? But they're saying that he's got the right to the racing line. Well, it's not the racing line, you see. Unless he's ahead. If he's side by side, nobody's entitled to the racing line. The racing line would be fully over to the left, going fully over to the right to clip the apex, and then be fully over to the left on exit. If there's two cars side by side, nobody's entitled to that line. The car on the outside has to leave at least a car width by the apex for the other car, right? And then on exit, well, that means that he's not got the racing line, is he? Because that's not the racing line if you're at least a car width away from the apex. So it's not the racing line. So even the whole description here is bullshit. All right, unless he's ahead. If he's fully ahead by the time we've got to the braking zone, then Tsunoda has to back out. I've not got the footage of this. I can't really describe it accurately at the moment. If I can I'll come back to this if I can pick up that footage at some point. Car 22 understeered whilst trying to defend the position. Understeered? Why would you understeer? Oh, well, that's because you're going too fucking fast. Okay, you understeer because you're going in too hot. And when you try and turn your car, the momentum of that car takes your car in a straight line. Oh, no, that's driving too fast. That's dangerous driving. But we'll call it understeer. The kiddies will think that they're knowledgeable people by calling it, oh yes, it was just the car understeering. The car didn't do what it was told to do. Well, it's not going to if it's going too fast. If the speed is too great, it's not going to turn the corner and it's not going to take the appropriate curve, is it? It's going to carry on too straight, isn't it? Oh, there's your problem. It's the guy that's controlling that car isn't controlling it correctly because he's taking it too fast. That's your penalty. However, thereby forced car 27 off the track. However, car 27 rejoined the track in front of car 22. The stewards determined that both contributed to the incident and ended up in the correct order. So no further action is taken. So both drivers contributed to the incident. You've said here that car 27 attempted an overtake on the outside of car 22 and had the right to the racing line. Well, if they're side by side, like I've said, they're not entitled to the racing line. There is no racing line. The car on the inside cannot be as wide as they'd like to start that corner off, and they can't be as wide on exit of that corner. So they're not on the racing line, and the car on the outside cannot clip the apex at the midpoint of that corner because they've got to leave a car width. Neither can have the racing line. So that's bullshit if they're side by side. And this notion that, well, if car 27 is entitled to a racing line, then how can both contribute to the incident? If you're entitled to the racing line, you're absolved of any guilt. So how can both contribute? And it ended up in the correct race. So a car has sent it in too hot up the inside. You've then seen that coming and had to jump out of the way to get yourself off track to avoid being smashed out of the race. And they go, oh, but actually, even though you went off the track, you managed to rejoin in front of him. You made the overtake work, so we'll not give him a penalty. No, he's still driven in an unsafe manner. He's still forced you to having to take evasive action. He's forced you off the track. That is dangerous driving. That's a penalty. That's a 10-second penalty. That's 2 points on your licence. Oh, but Holter and Warwick here, it's a Red Bull car, isn't it? No further action required. This is stewards who don't know how to steward and don't know how to judge. Now we've got the next one. Document 40. Pierre Gasly collided with car 55 in turn 4. Breach, see, they know what to refer it to in the International Sporting Code here. 10-second time penalty, 2 penalty points. Stewards reviewed video and in-car video evidence. Oh, we lost that for Max, but we can see it with everybody else, just not Max. Car 55 attempted to overtake on the outside on car 10 into turn 4. Car 55 had its front axle ahead of the front axle of car 10 at the apex. Again, we shouldn't be judging this at the apex. Not got the footage to do a full breakdown, but let's just go through what they're saying. And therefore had the right to take the racing line according to the driving standard guidelines. We're not talking about the driving standard guidelines. We're talking about the International Sporting Code. They're two different things. This thing is bullshit driving standard guideline. Car 10 tried to retake the position, but thereby collided with car 55. The stewards determined that the driver of car 10 was wholly at fault and imposed a standard penalty. Okay, so they've described that. They're saying that somebody had the right and the other car caused a collision by driving into them, that they were in a position when they would have needed to back out. And they didn't. Or they'd have had to drive in a manner where they didn't force the other car off track or didn't collide with them. And they didn't. That's a penalty. So they got that one, by the sounds of it, by the look of their report, correct. Well, that's 1 out of 3. Let's have a look at this one. So this is the one that involves Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Now, what happened before this, just to show you how much bullshit that document is, you've got the driver and team representatives are required to report to the stewards at 17:15 in relation to the incident. Okay, driver number 44, Lewis Hamilton. And this is, for this incident, alleged breach of Appendix L, Chapter 4, Article 2B of the International Sporting Code. Car 1 allegedly forcing car 44 off the track. And that happened at 15:42. And they couldn't determine it in the race. Oh no, we don't know. We'll have to summon the drivers. Now, the driver and team representative are required to report to the stewards. That means you are required to go to see the stewards. Yeah? And then we get to this actual document. The stewards have received a report from the race director, summoned, documents 35 and 36, and heard from the drivers and team representatives, have considered the following matter and determined the following. Max Verstappen of Oracle Red Bull Racing in the race allegedly breached the International Sporting Code for driver standards, but there's no further action because this is Supermax. This is Max Verstappen rules, everybody. And this is the reason. The reason from the stewards. And let's look at these reasons and compare them with how they described everything else. The stewards heard from the driver of car 1. Did any of the other drivers get the chance to explain their case in the race? The other incidents involving 6 other drivers, did any of those drivers get the chance to give an account to the stewards? No, the stewards were able to impose a penalty without hearing from the drivers. But they heard from Max Verstappen, team representatives, and video and in-car evidence. Now here we go. The driver of car 44, Lewis Hamilton, waived his right to attend the hearing. It's not a right to attend the hearing when you've been summoned. Okay, when you've been summoned, you are given an order that you must attend this hearing. Hamilton's just fucked it off. He knows it's bullshit. He knows that this is going to be the outcome anyway, and he can't be dealing with this bullshit. So he's fucked it off. That is not waiving his right. Okay? It's not saying, Lewis, there's going to be a hearing for this. Would you like to attend? No, I'll waive my right to be able to attend that meeting. It's not that. It's not that at all. You've been summoned. Okay, you're required to attend it. And he's gone, no. That's not waiving your right. That is disobeying an order. Okay, that's what it's actually doing. It's not waiving your right. But the strap-on fanboys will go, oh, he should get penalised then. He should get penalised then. Yeah, I'm sure that's what you'd like, isn't it, lads? Anyway, the driver of car 1 stated during the hearing that he had gained some momentum on car 44 out of turn 3 with fresher tyres. Oh, this is a lovely story. We always like telling the backstory when it involves Max Verstappen. Now, what we see in Formula One races is sometimes some cars seem to have more momentum than others at certain locations of the track. They manage to close up really close to the car in front of them because they've got more momentum. But if the overtaking opportunity is not there, you have to back out. If you've not got yourself in the position to be able to validly challenge for position, although you might have gained some momentum, you've got to back out because you've not earned the right. But the lovely story that Max gets to tell everybody is that he had gained some momentum on car 44 out of turn 3 with fresher tyres. Oh, it's the tyres. Oh, the fresher tyres, and used this momentum to make a move on the inside into turn 4. Well, you're not allowed to. Okay, up until that braking zone, had you managed to get yourself halfway alongside Lewis's car at the braking zone to the corner? No, you haven't. So therefore, you back out. Put your foot on the brake, back out. The car in front of you, Lewis Hamilton's entitled to the racing line, entitled to go across and clip that apex and be wide on exit. You've got no rights whatsoever. But Max gained some momentum on fresher tyres and used that momentum to make a move on the inside. It's illegal. He further elaborated that he was in full control of his car and could have stayed further to the inside to leave space for car 44 and exit. We've looked at the video. You went fully off the track pretty much yourself on the exit, Max. Oh, well, if he'd have been there, I could have. I saw that he went off track and I thought I'd go off track myself, pretty much. No. That's not how it was, Max. Okay? However, he said car 44 had gone off the track. He elected to use all of the track on exit. Oh, Max elected. Max has got all that extra car control that he's seen Lewis go off the track and gone, oh, rather than leave a car width, I'll go all the way to the exit of the extremity of the track and beyond now, because he's left the track. No, Max. That momentum that you then took into the corner swept you wide on exit, meaning you couldn't have kept it any tighter than that, even though you are saying that he further elaborated he's in full control of his car and could have stayed further to the inside to leave the space on exit. No, you couldn't. The team representative of car 44 confirmed that there was no contact between both cars. Contact's irrelevant. Was there any contact between Hulkenberg and Tsunoda? Are we talking about contact in this? No, which one is it? Is it this one? This one. Car 27. Is that Hulkenberg? I think it is. No contact being described there, is there? But, well, the Ferrari have to confirm that there was no contact in this incident involving Max, and further stated that driver of car 44 chose not to attempt to remain on the track. Well, why would he attempt not to remain on the track? He's driving into a corner, trying to take it as fast as he can, realises that as I'm trying to do this, if I try and stay on this line, on this steering angle, I'm going to get hit. I'm going to have to try and manage my way around here now, not losing control, and deviate out of the way. That's not about, I'll still try and stay out the track. No, I've got to manage this situation where I'm travelling at speed and I've got a lunatic that would be willing to smash into me if I don't do something else. So I'll do something else, and now I've got to contend with what that then causes my car to then do. And if that means it's taking me off the track, I've then got to keep that car in control off the track, rather than risk trying to somehow manage to control this vehicle to maybe stay on the track, maybe not, maybe lose grip on the curbing, the white stuff, manage the changeable grip conditions off the track, remain in control so you don't end up spinning out. Oh, but according to this little document here, is yeah, they confirm that they stated that the driver of car 44 chose not to attempt to remain on the track. Was what about here? Did car 27 choose to attempt to remain on the track or not? Are we discussing whether car 27 has chosen or not chosen to attempt to remain on the track? No, we're not talking about that, are we? It's all bullshit, isn't it? Taking all this into account, the stewards determined that there was no contact and that the incident does not qualify as forcing another driver off the track, despite the ambitious nature of the overtaking attempt, and takes no further action. The ambitious. Now that's illegal. You weren't entitled to be left track room. You hadn't achieved the position at the braking zone of being halfway along that competitor you were trying to overtake, and yet you didn't back out. You forced them into having to take evasive action, otherwise there would have been a collision, and you forced them off the track by making them take evasive action, and you gained a position through that process. So, number one, you give back that position straight away. That's what you do in the race. And you get a penalty for driving in that manner. 10-second penalty, two penalty points on your super license. During the race, if it's awarded there and then, and you've got a further pit stop to take, that becomes 10 seconds stationary whilst you're in the pits when you're having them tyres changed, meaning there could be the cars on track passing you, meaning you're further down the field when you re-emerge after that tyre change, meaning you then have to overtake them cars on track in order to regain any further positions. Oh, we won't do that in the race for Max. No, we'll decide after the race. We'll let Max come and tell us what Max thinks in the comments section. Max going to tell us that, I was fully in control. I could have left space if I'd have wanted to, but I'd seen he'd gone off the track, so I chose not to. I was in full control. I'd got more momentum. I've got momentum going into this corner because of my tyres, and therefore it was all right. No further action. No further action. Say Felix Holter and Derek Warwick. This is the bullshit that is fed to fans of the sport. There's zero consistency. Well, there is consistency. It's consistent that every time Max Verstappen does something like this, there's no further action. Every time Max Verstappen does this, we lose the onboard cameras. Every time that Max Verstappen does this, we'll have a look at that after the race and decide whether or not there's going to be a penalty after the race. That's consistent, isn't it? That's what we see that's consistent. You show me another driver that's had that many times, that is the way that things have been dealt with that driver. You won't be able to. It's always the same guy. It's always the same driver. Oh, but he's the best you've ever seen. He's the best you've ever seen. When all the rules are different for him. Everything is completely different for Max Verstappen. He's allowed to get away with that sort of manoeuvre. Oh, he drives for the Red Bull team, doesn't he? Oh, it's the stewards that make decisions for the Red Bull team, don't they? Max Verstappen rules. Anyway, that'll do on this one. Thank you for your time. There's a lot more incidents to talk about, and just various other things that are just exposing the bullshit of what is this show of Formula One, an entire facade. the other bit was Martin Brundle. I'll get the recording of what Martin Brundle said about it at the time. Again, said immediately about, there wasn't a collision, so it's not a problem. Not a problem, says Martin. Not a problem. Thanks for your time.